Hello, everyone. This is Francisco at daddysgametime.com, your source for friendly content and family-friendly content. I am here today with Mr. Chris Cason. He is a voice actor. He's done many, many roles, most notably Dragon Ball Z. He is the voice of Tien and Mr. Popo, as far as I understand. How are you, sir?
Good, and I'd also like to add Shu or Shao, depending on the show, the ninja dog, who's also in...
That's right.
I only bring him up because, I voiced that character in Dragon Ball.
Right.
And then didn't for years. And then for the movies, he's back. And for Super, he's back. So I was like, oh,
Right.
Great, because he's one of my favorites. So
Yeah, and wasn't he also in Dragon Ball GT very prominently as well?
I think in the beginning.
Yeah,
Actually,
at
for
first,
GT,
yeah.
I did that voice, and I did Rage Shenron in GT also, one of the
Right.
dragons.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Pretty
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, see, we're very, very big fans of Dragon Ball Z because that's exactly what turned us into anime.
Oh.
When we first started watching the first episodes, I believe back then they were in the Cartoon Network under Toonami. And we were like, what is this? And it looked very interesting. But the one thing that turned us off a lot about that show was that the fight sequences took so long. Like, they will fight for like 3 or 4 episodes.
So you must be a fan of Super.
Yes, when Super came along, I was like, "Whoa, this is much better." It goes very, very fast. And I've only seen the Japanese dub at this moment. I haven't seen. I don't know if there's an American dub yet, but I am assuming you're working on it, or are you done with that?
Of Super?
Yeah, of the no, not Super, but the newest Dragon Ball, the new series that they just came up with in Japan.
Oh, newer.
Yeah, there's a newer Dragon Ball.
Newer than Super?
Is that the newest one? I mean, I.
Whoa. Okay, my mind.
Okay, let's see. Let's regroup then. Okay, so Super, Dragon Ball Z Super. Is that the one where Goku becomes evil?
I believe so.
Okay, so that's the one we're talking about.
Okay,
then that's the
okay.
same one then.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. It's because we didn't really hear about the new Dragon Ball. I think it was 2 years ago when they was announced, and we were really, really excited. But then we kind of lost track of it because it was just currently playing in Japan. And I believe last year is when I first started watching the episodes in Japanese because people upload them to YouTube. They put the little subtitles underneath, and we're like, oh, okay, so this is really cool.
Yeah.
And so, but I haven't seen an American dub yet.
Okay.
So is that current? Is that out yet?
I believe it's on Adult Swim.
Oh, is it? Okay, all right.
Because that's why I thought, you mean there's another one past that?
Yeah, no,
I thought,
that's why we got confused there.
But I wouldn't be surprised because, Dragon Ball is like, it's eternal. It's,
Right, yeah.
like it's for always. And I was shocked that they, of course I was shocked that Kai happened
Right.
and then Super. So that tells me like, well, I guess it's, there's no end in sight.
Well, so that's very good news for you, of course, because
Yes.
So
Always.
tell me a little bit about that. How did you get involved with Dragon Ball in the beginning?
Well, actually, that was the first voice acting job I ever got was Dragon Ball. That was the only, when Funimation began in Texas in, I think, 97, in 1998, I was brought in I lived in Dallas already, the Dallas area, and I was brought in to audition. And I didn't really know a lot about the show. And I came in, and a guy with a thick beard gave me a notebook with funny-looking characters in it and little descriptions of the characters, and I just auditioned for many of them. In fact, there could be a whole other interview about called "The Jobs We Didn't Get,"
Oh, okay.
because everybody auditioned for, like, every male just about that came in auditioned for almost every male part. So that means, I auditioned for Goku.
Right.
Krillin, Sonny Strait probably auditioned for Goku. Like, we all, and he auditioned for, Popo or whatever. So we all just did that. And at that time, there was a lot of doubling and tripling up in terms of casting. Particularly, I mean, the best example is Sabat, who did so many. But I was given at that time. I mean, I auditioned and then I left and I just drove away going, what a weird. I don't really understand, but that would be cool because I loved the idea of it. And then about 2 weeks later, I got a phone call that I was Tien and Popo, and we started recording. And that's all Funimation had at that time was one show.
Right.
And who knows if the first show they had was not Dragon Ball Z, who knows where they'd be now. But, I mean, luckily, the first show happened to be, turn into a big hit in the West. So.
Right, it did, and indeed. Now, let me talk about Mr. Popo a little bit. When you saw that you were getting Mr. Popo, I mean, there was a big controversy about the whole blackface and all that. Did you had any concerns about that, voicing the character?
Well, when I wasn't quite sure what I was looking at first, but what I based his voice off of, I mean, many voice actors have stories about how they came up with the voice, and for me, it was, there's a movie, of course, Raiders of the Lost Ark, which is the first Indiana Jones movie,
right.
And arguably the best. I don't know if 4 was, but anyway, so the first one, he has a friend named Sallah, and Sallah is this big, boisterous guy that he had a turban and a vest,
yep.
So I thought, I'm gonna do like a, not as good Sallah imitation, and I just kind of combined that with maybe just kind of this low voice, and so it's really me doing Sallah is what I'm trying to imitate.
Okay.
And what's really funny to me is that I was Tien and Mr. Popo for a while, and then I got an opportunity to do a tour of a play all across America, and for 9 months though, and they said, if you leave for 9 months, this is the only show we have right now, so we'll have to replace you if you're gone that long.
Right.
But I said, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and I said, that's okay. So when I left, John Bergmeyer took over as Tien, and Chris Sabat took over as Mr. Popo. And it's just funny because it's Sabat imitating how I did Popo, but like 3 octaves lower. So, and then I ended up doing Popo again for Kai and later stuff. So that's how it happened in the beginning.
Oh, awesome. So you mentioned that you're from Texas. When you're growing up in Texas, do you see yourself doing this type of job, or were you thinking going for something else completely different?
Well, it was always acting, and that's why I was doing theater. And at that time, you could do commercials. You could, in the Dallas area, you could do theater, commercials, or there were 3 shows. You could do Walker, Texas Ranger. You could do Wishbone, the little dog Wishbone. Right. Or Barney. Okay. Those were the 3 going on. But I wanted to be a part of acting in some way, and I didn't know that, it would lead to more of a focus on voice acting. I just, when you're an actor, you spend more time auditioning than you do getting the part. Okay. So you just throw noodles at the wall, and then if one sticks, and this one stuck, I was like, oh, this is great. So I just started doing that, and then after voice acting for a while, I mentioned wanting to direct and then write, and just kind of, I believe the more you do, the more you get to do. And I just kept pushing for all of that. So under that roof of Funimation, I got to do all these skills, or come up with all these skills that I didn't know I had necessarily, particularly, anime related. Because at that time, particularly in '98, it was much different than it is now. Yeah. See, we also talked to other people in the business, like Patrick Seitz and Christopher Smith, and they mentioned one of the biggest things is that when it comes from Japan, you really don't have much control over the dubbing because the voices and the mouth sometimes doesn't sync. No. So what is your experience with that? Well, to me, you just asked me a writing question primarily, because if you're acting with a script that's very good, then the flaps should match pretty well.
Right.
But actually, during this con, I'm writing scripts for a show I'm working on right now. And so when these panels and interviews are over, I run up to my room and hunch over a laptop and just adapt a script. And that is so vital because, you have to convey the same feelings and the same emotion in, either a million flaps to say hello, right, or 1 flap to say a speech.
And what matches is what stays.
And it has to match. So that's very tricky. But then as an actor, if you get a script that's good, then it just all falls into place. And of course, these veterans especially, they've been doing it so long that it's just like, they can do it very easily.
Okay, and as far as giving advice to people that want to get into this industry, what would you tell them?
Well, if you're interested in, if the industry you mean voice acting
specifically?
Voice acting
as itself, yeah.
Well, a couple of things. One, right now is actually a good time to do voice work because now there's more opportunities maybe than ever. You can do stuff online. You can do voice acting in anime. You can do original animation voice acting. You can do audiobooks. You can do, there's so many different ways to use your voice, professionally now that maybe wasn't there. Well, it definitely wasn't there in 1998. So I would say there are many different ways to do it. I would also say that really focus on the acting part first. In other words, go to classes, do theater, get your hands dirty, so to speak, before you start doing anything else, because the root of all of it is acting itself. So that's the most important. And the rest will kind of take care of itself. It'll come to you.
Right.
You know.
So awesome. So basically, just to be a voice actor, you actually have to be an actor first. Is what you're saying.
Have to be an actor first, you know. And as a director, it's interesting. I've noticed sometimes you get people who come in who have not necessarily done theater or even trained before, but they're very good with almost imitating the anime they've seen, the English dub anime they've already seen.
Right.
But when they come in to record something new, they sound like they're trying to imitate like they overact in an anime way. Mm-hmm. And my goal for so much of what I direct is I don't want it to sound like typical or stereotypical anime trope stuff. I want it to sound more, you know, rooted in reality. So if you are anime only as a director, I've seen people come in and they're just like, what? I mean, they just do over the top. And of course, you know, that's why it's good to have a foundation of, you know, acting first.
That way you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
As far as meeting your counterparts, other people that voice the same character as you, has that happened at all?
Other people voice the same character as me? Well, I guess so, because John Bergmeyer's Tien and Sabbath. But at least in that case, it really...
It's hard to do, to happen.
It's rare, but it's also cool because the good part about the fact that it happens to be those two people on that show is that I've known them since 1998. Right. So it's not like a shock or a surprise, and I knew it was going to happen. So it's kind of like we're in a cool little club all to ourselves, you know. And I think, you know, in the case of most characters, we're in a very small little group, you know. But for me, what's interesting is it's cool to meet other people who've done the same voice, but what's really cool for me is to be able to do a voice, different characters, time passes, and then you do the character all over again. That's happened to me on 2 different shows, which is rare. I worked on Dragon Ball Z, it was over, and then there was Kai, years later. So all the cast came back to do the same thing. In the case of Fullmetal Alchemist, years, and we did Brotherhood. And that was just so cool because, you know, you think it's over. Right. And you come back, and I can't speak for everybody, but most of us felt like coming back the second time was better for everybody.
Because you already know each other, you know what's going on and what is expected. So
yeah, we know each other. We know how the characters work faster. Usually the writing is better by then. It was always for me better the second time around.
Okay. And as far as being a director or an actor, what do you like the most?
That's a tough question. When you're an actor, you can go into... When you have an actor, you have responsibility to the character, but not to the show as much. In other words, at least in terms of voice acting, you come in, you can wear, you know, overalls and flip-flops and just, you know, do your character and then walk out the door, go to lunch, and you don't think about it anymore. But a director, you know, I can't even sleep well when I direct. Like, I'm so consumed by it. You know, I can't... It's all I think about when I'm doing it. So, but then I also like putting it together. You feel like a paternal feeling, like a proud parent, like you created this thing, you know, and you only hope, and you put everything into it, and you only hope that the public likes it as much as you do, because you know how hard you worked, and then it goes out into the world, and then sometimes you never can tell if they're going to like it or not. But so I guess I like the free feeling of the acting, but then the directing, I also like the feeling of control of putting it together. So I guess the thing I like about acting is the thing I don't like. It's like, so I guess it sounds like a cop-out, but I'll probably say it depends on the day. Right. But really, they're very close to me. They're very equal.
And if you know how to do both things, so I guess it comes easy to you.
Yeah, but there's always challenges. But the challenges, as in art, whether it's painting or sculpting, voice acting, any art, the challenge, the scary part, the challenge is the fun part. Because then you learn, you know, you're working through it. So I like the challenge too. Okay.
And lastly, to finish the interview, you now currently live in LA. Mm-hmm. Do you miss living in Texas?
Well, LA, yeah. This October I will have been in LA for 4 years, and I try to go back to Texas to visit. Usually about 4 weeks a year. Usually 2 in the summer and 2 in December. Okay. And I'm very connected to people there, but. It's kind of an adventure. So I kind of like the adventure aspect of living here. And while I do miss those people, I'm having a great time.
And do you have any issues with traffic, LA traffic, anything like that of the sort? Do you get used to it?
I mean, you know, I guess it's all about adventure and kind of like chasing your dreams, which I'm a big, you know, I'm really a big supporter of. You know, if people want to do something, I think they should try. Because failure is not trying and not getting it. Failure is never trying at all. And so for me, the act of going to do it is exciting enough that, traffic, I have good songs in my car. Like, I'll just listen to music. So to me, the traffic is worth pursuing my dreams. So
there you have it. Very, very nice message. I'm a firm believer of that as well. If you really want something, go for it, and it'll happen. So thank you so much for this interview. This was Chris Cason, and he is the great voice of Mr. Popo and Tien, our most notably known for, but he's done a lot more things. So thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.